What's up, everybody? It is Friday. That means it's time for the Rex and the Robbie show. I'm Robbie. That's Rex. How you doing, Rex?
I'm doing good, bro. How are you?
I am doing fantastic here on a fantastic Friday, chatting with you about an interesting topic. Today, we'll be talking about these newest changes in CGC. They're changing their notations, right? And we're going to be talking about what that entails and what that means to you. We want to hear your comments, obviously. So comment below in the video or participate in the chat as we're live. You'll be entered to win a contest. That winner will be announced on Monday's show over at The Experience. Link in the description below. Me and Rex, sometimes joined by John, most times joined by John, talking about spam, talking about
A
movies,
lot about spam.
all kinds of stuff. But more importantly, selling some great comics and collectibles. How you doing, Rex? Right? That's going to be a good
I'm
show
doing
Monday.
good, man. I'm doing good. It's Friday. The weather's not too horrible, so I'm feeling pretty good. Interesting topic that we got here today.
Yeah.
Saw this one come out, I guess, last week, about the middle of the week, I'd say, that I first heard about it. Needless to say, the comic world out there has not reacted very positively to this new information. So yeah, as Robbie said, interested to hear anybody's thoughts about this. If you're watching live, throw your comments up on the chat. If you're watching it later, throw it up in the comments. Love to hear what everybody's thinking. But my guess is kind of like Rotten Tomatoes in movies. I'm guessing that the reaction is going to be pretty not positive.
Yeah. So far it hasn't been. So I'll just read real quick, like kind of the rundown here. It says parameters modified for defects listed on CGC labels. So this means, like, when you get a CGC book, you want to know what you're buying because you can't open it to find out. And so it will let you know, like, it's got this color, like white pages, off-white pages, yellowed pages, missing pages, things like that, right? So it says, because CGC members now have access to Greater notes, not as many defects will be listed on the certification label. Based on feedback from prominent members of the collecting community, Certified Guarantee Company, CGC, is implementing a change that will reduce the number of defects that are identified on the comic book label. Traditionally, certain defects were listed on the CGC label if they were present on a certified comic book, which were also recorded in the comic book's Greater notes. Because CGC members now have free access to Greater notes, this redundancy is being eliminated from the label for the presence of the following defects: stickers, Siamese pages, punch holes, staples added after manufacturing, staples removed, detachments, fully split spine, tape, significant missing parts from the cover. That should be obvious, though. Lamination, miscuts, puzzles or coupons filled out. CGC will continue to identify on the label any significant missing pieces, pages, wraps, or inserts from the interior of a comic. Each comic's grade will reflect all missing parts, and those missing parts will be recorded in the Greater notes. CGC is also discontinuing the use of the term incomplete on its label, as well as the term affect story, and does not affect story when parts are missing from the interior of a comic. The CGC label will continue to display restoration, conservation, and qualifiers as we have in the past, including married parts, color copies, wrong parts, coverless comics, individual wraps and pages, multiple covers, additional inserts, and unverified signatures. So that's the thing. What does that mean, Rex?
Well, I think it's going to mean a lot going down the line. I don't think anybody really knows, including CGC, what the aftermarket effect of these changes will do. So out of that long list that you read, the only thing that I would agree with you that should probably be removed and is pointless is significant missing parts from the cover. That obviously you should be able to visually see. Okay.
Yeah.
But everything else here, I don't know. Especially, I think what is problematic is the discontinuing the use of incomplete on the label. Affect story does not affect story because that's not something you can see. So I know that the reaction has overall been fairly negative, and I can understand why. But I think long term, and I'm just guessing, is what you're going to end up seeing is you're going to see a break about this point in time. Books that were graded pre 2022 and then books graded post 2022 when this change was implemented. and the value is going to be lower. Okay, so for example, let's take just any Silver Age book, let's say, okay, that is going to get, hey, Jenny, what's going on? And I want to thank everybody who's joined us live. I know this is a switch in a format. We've been doing it for a couple of weeks, but I like it. I know Robbie likes it as well because it gives us, live audience to engage with. But so you take any Silver Age comic, let's say, okay, and you have one that was graded in 2022, pre-2022, and you have one that's graded post-2022, right? And let's say they achieve the same grade. Let's say they both get a 6.0. It's going to become something where collectors are going to go, okay, is this pre-2022 or is this post-2022? And the one that's post-2022, same grade, same comic, in my opinion, is going to end up starting to net less in the aftermarket, because people are going to be like, well, there are a whole bunch of things I don't know now, okay, without being a member, okay? And let's say you become a member, and somebody might get smart enough to say, all right, I'll join the membership. I'll get the grader's notes since I'm doing this post 2022. And then what are you going to do? Are you going to print that out and tape it to the back of the slab? Say you're a dealer at a con somewhere. Yeah, are you going to have to do that now?
See,
maybe.
Now at my shop, that is something that we've been doing, is we will put the grader notes on like a tab and we'll tape it to the back so that people can look and see. Because what's really got to happen here is now, like, there's a level of trust, because how many dealers are not going to want to tell you, like, certain things are missing, that like maybe the last page that actually has Wolverine appear in 181 is actually not in this book. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that.
Yeah, I think that, when you're talking about something real high dollar, okay, let's say, the First Detective Comics or whatever the case may be, something that's significantly pricey, I believe that the buyer will do their due diligence. It's worth the effort to do whatever you need to do. But for the more reasonably priced ones, and especially at cons, I think it can really get hurt here. Buyers and sellers at cons, the problem is that in that con environment, if the seller doesn't tape that to the back, what do? You get on your phone real quick. It adds an extra level.
William's got a good comment. Says anyone who sells slabs at cons or online needs to print the notes for honesty. I think that would be a good. That's something that probably will start being expected from by the consumers.
Right. And I don't disagree with what William is saying. I mean, I totally agree with that. But then again, the point of fact is, when it was on the label, it was a lot easier for everybody involved. It was easier for the dealer. Okay. It was easier for the buyer, because you have a third party. That's the whole purpose of the grading. You see my point? And they've taken something away from that, is that we have an independent third party who has no skin in this particular deal, right? So it's me, Rex, the buyer, you, Robbie, the seller. Okay. So when I look at the label, I know what I'm looking at, because we have a third party that's done that. Now, you're taking all that away now. So we have to depend on Robbie, the seller. Hey, am I, stand-up guy? I am. So we print it out, and we take the grader's notes and we tape it to the back. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Now you're going to have to do it. Now you already use it as a practice, but now let's say the guy who goes to the con, small guy, does it part-time, weekend warrior, that type of thing. Now, how much extra time does he have to spend? He's got to print it up, okay, tape it there. And then obviously it leaves, as you say, an open hole for the unscrupulous guy.
Yeah.
Who knows that it's missing pages or, affects story and all that stuff, and knows all that, but tries to pass it off as something else. So now you're a casual buyer at the con. You're not a CGC member because you don't really buy that much. You really like this title, and you always thought, wow, it would be neat to get a 6.0 graded by CGC. All right. So then this guy goes and sells at some later date. And then the buyer that he's selling to goes, well, I'm actually a CGC member, so can I see the serial number? I'm going to pull up the grader's notes. And then says to that guy, hey, did you know you're missing pages? What? I'm missing pages?
Yeah.
You start to see the kind of and what is the long-term effect of that? I think the long-term effect is going to be, you're going to get pre and post 2022 books, same grade, slab at different times. I think they're going to carry a different value.
Yeah.
and you can do everything under the sun. Now, why would CGC do this? You know, there are obvious reasons. I mean, I think that the backlog because of the pandemic forced them to have to streamline things, and they're looking for ways to be more efficient and quicker. Okay. And then I think somebody said, hey, you know what? We could probably make money doing this as well. How? By providing free graders notes to all members, thereby increasing our membership.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I don't believe that anything is ever really truly driven by just one motive by a company, but there are usually multiple factors that are pushing them in a certain direction. And I think that honestly, with the backlog, and it's so hard for any industry to staff up these days, that this is a real possibility that they were caught in a position, hey, we need to make things go quicker. How can we do that? This is one way. And then they can say, hey, by the way, let's make some more dough doing this by doing it this way and making graders notes available, but you got to pay for it.
Yeah, I wonder, because obviously there is that. They want more people to become a member and pay for that, right? So there's that. There's probably also like they got these new fancier labels with like images on it and stuff, so maybe they want to like have more room dedicated to that. Like you said, there's the backlog they're dealing with, so maybe this cuts out some redundancy or whatever. Right. And obviously if you got a book, high grade, high dollar book that's missing pages, it's going to carry a low grade, right? And I guess a lot of people, maybe all that is concerned with some CGC collectors and sellers is the fact that it's slabbed and what that number is. That's like seems to be the most important thing. There are people that will buy CGC books though to crack open because they want to make sure, guaranteed that they get a certain book, but they do like still opening their books and flipping through them, and then something crazy like that. What really bothered, I think, a lot of people was that they said due to like, how do they word it, prominent members in the collecting community and their feedback. And so they're like, what's going on here? So like, is say some of the people who do the most business with CGC, is there a possibility that these people have a say and can be like, hey, this is missing some pages, but let's not like, let's boost it up for him because of how much money we get for him. So let's give him a better grade and not mention, like, there is the conspiracy theory minded idea that something like that could happen. Would it? Who knows? Probably not. But
well, I think it's more. Yeah, I mean, I think the comment about prominent authority, however they phrased it, I think that's more of a canned PR kind of response, or statement. You got to say something, right? Okay, and almost every industry says, based on the feedback from our customers or our clients or whatever, we're going to go in this direction. Okay, and usually when it's a decision that makes everybody angry, people think, well, what authorities, what prominent figures are advising you to do this because everybody disagrees with it. So, and James brings up a good point. I think, I don't know if CGC sees this or not, but where there was kind of a status quo between CGC and CBCS, they've left the door open now for CBCS to catch up. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that's assuming CBCS doesn't go in the same direction. Okay. I don't know that they are, and I don't know that they aren't. But
so William was saying that CBCS still does carry all that information with no extra charge on the label. So, and CBCS has always been like a CBCS graded book at a certain grade versus CGC. Usually the CGC is a little bit more. Right. So maybe there will be now more of a balancing of it, a balance of the force.
I think they've kind of opened the door for CBCS, where they may have had a loyal following of people. Well, I only send my books to be graded at CGC kind of attitude. You've now given that person pause to say, well, you know what? I don't like this. So I'm going to submit some books to CBCS and see what they're like. Yeah, so I would agree with your point. There could be a kind of a leveling the playing field, if you will, by this move. Again, I don't pretend to know why they did this, and I think some of the points you brought up are probably fairly valid. I would say that I don't think it was very well thought out. I don't know if they've really gauged how the customers, the collectors out there were going to react to this. I think they may have misjudged that, because I think that it will cause flux. And I definitely believe you're going to have pre-2020, 2022 and post-2022 values, on the same book with the same grade.
Yeah.
I just think that because there's always going to be a segment of buyers that go to cons that are casual buyers. They're not going to want to do all this work, or they're not even aware that a change has taken place, and they're looking for a 6.0 whatever. They're going to pick it up,
Yeah.
So it's going to add definitely a separate element to everything. That's for sure.
Now, me personally, I don't get my books CGC'd, so it doesn't really matter to me, right? But I did see a lot of anger. Do you think that the anger is justified? Because there have been people, I've seen videos being made and articles being written of people being like, this is a slap in the face to collectors. And I mean, do they really think, because the defects will still go into the grade, but is this removing a level of trust? And I know wasn't there a video that came out of them grading a book and people were really like bothered by the way they were handling the book or something like that. So I think is at the core of this a distrust from this company and what they say a book is going to be and what it's worth?
Well, I think that since grading became a thing in collectibles, whether it be trading cards or comic books or anything like that, there was always a fundamental pushback. All right. I know that when PSA came on board with their, with their slabs and grading cards and stuff, there was always a purist kind of traditionalist pushback, why it's bad and it's garbage and they're wrong a lot. So I don't know if it's necessarily that. I think that always kind of existed, but I think that grading and slabbing stuff has now reached an adolescent stage. It's more accepted in our industry. And overall, I think the concept was always a good one. And the same reason that I pointed out before is that you now have a third party, and that makes things more efficient from the buyer and seller standpoint, right? So before grading and slabbing came around, whether it was a trading card or a comic book, you go to a con, guy says it's near mint, you're like, I don't think so. All right. So it's not just a question of haggling about price. Now you have to haggle about condition as well. All right. Because no two people see the same thing, right? So grading, I think, added that third party independent, okay, we're calling it a near mint. That's what we're calling it. Okay. Now you can agree, you can disagree, whatever the case may be, but I really have no skin in this transaction. So what do I care? You paid me a fee. I gave you my opinion, but ultimately it's still an opinion.
Yeah.
I think the pushback and the anger has really been a result, and any kind of mistrust is the grader's notes and having to purchase a membership. I think that's what people are reacting to. And when people react, they grab anything. If I feel you're wrong about this one thing and we're in an argument, then I'm going to take everything I can find, including the kitchen sink, and throw it at you. You remember, last week when we did a show and you wouldn't do a movie review of the movie I suggested, everything comes out of the woodwork, right? So I think that's what that pushback. But I think primarily that as I said, you may have a very loyal CGC guy. They just collector. They like CGC. They like the color of the labels. I don't know, whatever. They're used to it. They don't want to change. You've now given them a reason to reconsider that, okay, by making a fundamental change. Is that a wise business decision? I don't know. I think that if really it was about efficiency or saying adding pictures to the label, then the best move is make grader's notes available to everyone. Okay.
Yeah.
So that anyone could, and here's another suggestion. I'll tell you why that actually makes sense a little bit more, because really I would be shocked if they don't do this later on to address this problem. If they haven't thought about it already, all of a sudden they're gonna have a new app. And what does that app do? Enter in the serial number or take a picture of it or whatever, or they put a QR code on the label now, okay, and get the history on this.
Yeah.
Okay. And
like a CarMax or some shit, right? Like
something. Right, exactly. You hit the QR code and it comes right up, and the app shows you, all the grader's notes. But I would be shocked if that didn't have an additional fee.
Yeah, right.
So maybe that's what they're moving towards. I don't know.
So giving less information on the label is almost kind of like a plan for them to make more money in the future, right? By people purchasing memberships. And then you're probably right on the money there. The CGC app that you pay for to give you access to grader's notes or something like that, right?
Yep. So because now you need the information. Because otherwise, it doesn't make much sense. Because the whole existence of a grading company is to help streamline the transaction itself. By doing what they're doing, you're not streamlining it; you're actually slowing it down, which is inverse to what you're there for. So if there isn't a reason to do that, and that I think is a plausible reason, not a conspiracy theory, is that somewhere down the line we're going to release an app, and all that you missed you can now get through the app.
Eddie's got a good comment and question here. Do you think CBCS will be the new go-to for graders? I've never graded anything, but now I don't know if I would send something to CGC if I did. What do you think about that, Rex?
Maybe, and I would not be surprised if this, I think they're definitely giving CBCS a chance to catch up. Okay. But I wouldn't be surprised if this move doesn't generate yet another grading company. I think it's opened the window for that.
Yeah. Because if CBCS doesn't take advantage of this opportunity, as they should, because right now, if you're at CBCS and you're running the show over there, this is your moment to make your push, right? And if they're not doing it and somebody sees that, you're right. And I'm sure there are other companies that do this, right? But they're the big two, right? They're other ones do it.
And that's kind of the problem, is that the technology of this is not that difficult, right? You get two plastic slabs. If I remember correctly, the slabs come in, they've got little plastic beads around the edges, and that's how they seal the slab, right? And they put it actually in a sonic welder, and a sonic welder melts all those little plastic beads around it, and it creates the seal. So, I mean, it's not brain surgery, in terms of the technology itself. The true value is, number one, getting enough graders that can competently grade them. Okay. If you don't have graders, you got a tough time. And then the trust factor, the trust in how long you've been in the industry, what the feedback's been. And without question, CGC has been, the first and foremost within the industry. The question now is, by doing what they're doing, are they opening the door to a lot of competitors coming in? And then the competitors have the same problem. If CGC can't hire enough graders, then where are these people going to get graders?
Yeah, because I've been wondering that. What do you got to do to be a CGC grader? You know what I'm saying? And do people that are not part of the industry or have a love for comics or something, do they wind up there? You know what I'm saying? They just okay, we're going to send you through this 6-week training course, and you're going to come out of it a grader. Who are these people? we don't know.
What? I got to be honest with you. I from the trading card standpoint, it was generally people deep in the hobby that did a lot of trading and learned to grade on their own.
Yeah.
There wasn't some sort of grading school that you went to or anything like that. But I think what's happened after the pandemic is the industry in terms of grading has exploded to a point where maybe somebody comes out with that. Maybe a new company, in order to promote themselves, says this is what we do when we grade a comic. This is what we do, or how we treat your comic. This is our turnaround time, taking advantage of some of the holes that already exist in the industry. And that in and of itself may help them launch. And if they get good enough reviews, you have a serious third competitor.
Yeah.
And ultimately market value.
Yeah, and ultimately it's the consumers, us out there in the market, who determine which company's grade we deem more worthy financially, right?
Correct.
A grade is a grade, right? Most times if you buy, there are lots of companies that grade trading cards and stuff like that, right? Yep. And I know that is maybe this, but is the trading card, and obviously that's now wrapped up in not just sporting cards, but like Pokemon and stuff like that, right? And they do video games and stuff like that. It's wild. Yep. Why would you grade? You can't play it. But anyway, is in the trading card industry now and then, did it matter? What company does it matter as much as it does to comic book buyers?
It did, yeah. For the longest time, PSA was the foremost grading company, and they would get for the same grade slightly higher. Then there was a company that came aboard, SGC, and then eventually Beckett, which used to be the Price Guide company, started grading as well. I would say over time, I would say that the distance between the three companies started to shrink. And a lot of that had to do with, believe it or not, if you're asking me, it had probably a lot to do with auction houses, companies that would get massive amounts graded at one time, because that's probably the best way to promote yourself. So if say an SGC decided to cut a better deal in PSA or had a better turnaround time, an auction house would run with them and then run their auction. Well, now you have a bunch of SGC graded cards all over the place. Now, the market eventually determines how much it sells for, but you see enough of it, and that's a card you want. Eventually, you're buying more of it. You're expanding your reach. You're expanding your visibility as a grading company, and then that gap begins to shrink. So it and one thing that happened, at least with the not just grading cards, but autograph authentication, was a lot of these guys that were one place ended up moving to another place. And those that were familiar with the industry, well, generally the respect would go with it as well. And that helped to close the gap between the three companies as well. Okay. I don't know that comic grading has quite reached that stage, but it's getting close. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I think this is an interesting move by CGC. I don't know what their long-term plan is. As I said, if they come out with an app in a few months, then it actually is a pretty smart idea to increase your revenue. Now, is that fair? Are customers happy? Well, I don't think anybody's ever happy when you go to a store, whether it be your grocery store or your gas pumps these days, and the price goes up. Nobody's ever happy about that. So, yeah. But ultimately, if they increase their bottom line, then that was a smart decision from a business standpoint. Is it good for the hobby? That I don't know. Okay, is it expose them to competition from CBCS and maybe a new third company that just comes out of nowhere and really starts to gain market share? Maybe. So yeah, we'll see. Let's see. Nick from Comic Culture.
Call me old-fashioned, but I feel like a grading company needs to be ultra transparent. I would argue that no two 9.8s or whatever grade is the same, and we should know the details as much as we can.
Well, I would agree with you, Nick. What you're saying there, but from a basis of technology, how far away are we from this happening with a computer and artificial intelligence? You got
we're going to have Skynet grader comics, Rex. Is that what's going to happen?
Skynet will be grading the comics. Okay, and if you complain, they'll send the Terminator. Okay, there is no complaint department, right?
That's the real Judgment Day right there, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, how far are we from that? I mean, we have self-driving cars today. I mean, that was an unheard of, unthought of. That was some sort of science fiction fantasy thing that cars would drive themselves, and it's happening right here, right now. So that would obviously create a impartial kind of thing, which would probably help the industry, I would say, as a whole. But we'll see what happens. Again, I think it is an interesting decision, and it could be good, it could be bad, it could be both all at the same time.
Nick says at least AI would offer consistency in theory.
There you go. There you go. So, can
you imagine seeing a robot hand come grab a comic, a Hulk 181, just throwing it?
You got to stop watching those 1950s sci-fi shows.
Oh, man, come on. They're the best.
But so, it's, we'll see what happens. But I think almost certainly you're going to see a price differential between pre and post 2022.
Yeah.
That I think is a foregone conclusion. Because the people that are collectors and experienced collectors and heavy traders in slab comics, they're going to take that into account, and it's going to affect price. Some guy's going to say, yeah, well, that's post 2022, so I'm not going to offer you X for it. I'm going to offer you X -1.
Yeah.
And the guy's going to say, oh, I'm going to pull the grader's notes, and the guy'll say, I don't care.
Yeah. And then, there is the possibility of other, not honest vendors making up grading notes, and like, here are the grading notes. Oh, yes, okay.
That is actually a very good point. I hadn't even thought of. Yeah, you bring up a very valid point there, Robbie. Who's to say somebody won't do that? I mean, it's almost certain that they will. Which then, if CGC was planning that app, that would almost be a perfect advertisement.
Yeah.
Don't look at those notes. Download the app.
Download the app.
Be sure.
Speaking of CGC, I'm sure there'll be some graded books available at the Experience on the Comic Collectibles with Rex and John and Rockin Robbie show on
Pre-2022.
Yeah, exactly. Most importantly, pre-2022. But some great collectibles will be available Monday night starting at 6 p.m. Eastern over at the Experience. Link in the description below. I'll be there. Rex will be there. Our friends will be there. It'll be so much fun. We hope you're there in the chat because I'm sure we'll be bringing this up because it always carries over. Yeah.
And don't forget, tonight from 7 to 8, Nick will be on with his original art show on the Experience. He's got some great pieces too. I think there's a Jim Starlin piece that he has, and so pretty cool. And some I think he had a couple of commission sketches as well.
Nice.
I think Bob Layton commission sketches, color. So he's got a great lineup for tonight. So, and then obviously join me, Robbie, and John on Monday, 6 to 8 on the Experience, and we'll have CGC slabs. We'll have Hazer cover sketch art, sign books, all kinds of stuff, and we'll talk about spam, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm sure we will because we do it every single time. Well, thank you all for joining us. And Rex, thank you for being here and having this discussion with me. And we're out, y'all. Have a good one. Stay